Welcome to my IGCSE Paper 1 Section A Non-Fiction Text Analysis of Benjamin Zephaniah's Young and Dyslexic. You've got it going on. This analysis will discuss some of the main features of this very interesting text. Of course, no analysis is ever complete, but nevertheless, I hope you are able to gain a good understanding of Zephaniah's text. This extract was published in The Guardian Online on Friday, the 2nd October 2015, but is adapted from Zephaniah's contribution to a text entitled Creative, Successful, Dyslexic by Jessica Kingsley, in which very well-known people from the arts, sport, and business worlds talk about how dyslexia affected their childhood, how they were able to overcome the challenges and use the special strengths of dyslexia to achieve great success in adulthood. Other notable contributors include Darcy Bussell, Eddie Izzard, Sir Richard Branson, Meg Matthews, Zoe Wanamaker, Richard Rogers, Stephen Naismith, Linda LaPlante, Sir Jackie Stewart and Sophie Conran. It's always important to talk about how the text opens when writing the 12 marker for question 4 of paper 1. And this means you are discussing structure right from the off. This text opens with emotive language in As a Child I Suffered, which serves to hook the reader from the start. We do not expect a child to suffer, so this is immediately interesting to the potential reader. The statement which closes the opening paragraph, "We are the architects, we are the designers," with its comma splice, foreshadows the confidence that is shown throughout the piece, inspiring others with dyslexia not to feel that they are not good enough or that they are stupid, to quote the later teachers Zephaniah mentions. It underscores that Zephaniah knows that he doesn't need perfect grammar to convey an important message. Zephaniah makes effective use of listing in this second paragraph. The education system is said to have had no compassion, no understanding, and no humanity, and this syndetic listing, all with negative abstract nouns, goes a long way to sum up the younger Zephaniah's educational experiences. He contrasts this later in the paragraph with the idea of being kind and thoughtful and listening to problems in the polysyndeton to contrast the ideal experience with his actual one. But rather than appearing bitter, Zephaniah is merely reflective, and this is underscored with the passive mood seen in Just Wasn't Done. He doesn't apportion blame to his former teachers, but approaches through the metaphor, the past is a different kind of country, that things were different, and that the context nowadays is thankfully very different. Zephaniah recounts a series of anecdotes to illustrate the problems he faces as a young dyslexic boy at school in Birmingham during the 1960s, to build upon the differences between the educational system then and now. The ideas for which he gets into trouble are thoughtful but contradictory within the prescriptive environment of the old-fashioned classroom. The repetition of negative, aggressive, and insulting language in the adjectives bad and stupid reinforces a negative worldview of those with dyslexia or other learning needs at the time, and the judgments made quickly by those in power. Zephaniah's account of the local savages is particularly upsetting and further serves to highlight the ignorance of Zephaniah's teachers. He returns to the idea of savages and the ignorance of others later in the text with a clear racial comment. Stereotypes, perhaps indeed racist ones, are developed in the assumption that because Zephaniah was not traditionally academic in the eyes of his teacher, he would excel on the sports field. The young Zephaniah was not understood by his teachers, as is made clear by the poems in his head, which show his early, untapped potential. The emotive language of hard work and the fact that he would give up reflect the arduous struggle of Zephaniah's school days, but also the resourcefulness shown at an early age. He realizes that a way to communicate his poetry is through asking his sister to transcribe for him. He later shows such creativity in thought through the designs he sketches when he cannot spell a word. I will return to this point later in the video. Being expelled from school, or thrown out, to quote the violent verb phrase employed by Zephaniah, is likely to anger the compassionate reader at this point who, from the context of the 21st century, is more aware of the more inclusive nature of education nowadays. The semantic field of crime is seen in fighting, stab, revenge, and stole, culminating in Borstal, which is a sort of juvenile offenders institution and which seems to have been the turning point for Zephaniah in many ways, in that he learned from others how to avoid trouble. The parallel structure in a high percentage of the prison population are dyslexic, and a high percentage of the architect population makes a juxtaposition between two apparently unlikely sections of society, but also reinforces the importance of opportunity, which is developed further into the next paragraph when Zephaniah discusses the chances and opportunities he was given and took. I'll discuss this shortly, but firstly, it's important to notice the direct address in if you look at the statistics, as Zephaniah demonstrates how his success really is against rather damning odds. He lists multiple stereotypes, all of which are societally believed to disadvantage him and increase his odds of ending up in prison: his race, his poverty, his family status, etc. But the paragraph ends on what is the central message of the entire text: conquering your fears and finding your path in life. Zephaniah explains how he turned to writing, despite his dyslexia. He humanizes those he visits in prison through making links between them and himself. The sentence, "they missed theirs, didn't notice them, or didn't take them," has a natural rhythm that one might indeed expect in a poet. The declarative sentences, "I never thought I was stupid, I didn't have that struggle," show the same confidence that was seen in the opening paragraph, but also his conviction born from experience. Zephaniah returns to the ideas of savages and the implied ignorance and racism that he has faced, but again does not show bitterness or rancour, but just a strong sense of self-worth, safe in the knowledge of his own intelligence. When Zephaniah told his poem to his girlfriend, there is an almost verbal colloquial feel to the verb told, as more traditionally we might read or even recite a poem, which makes the reader think that even this extract has perhaps been dictated or transcribed in unconventional or creative ways. That they really took off is also informal and colloquial, but reflect his creativity with language, surely the main skill that is important in any wordsmith. Zephaniah's amazement at the age of 21 when he learned of his dyslexia and asks, "Do I need an operation?" really shows his naivete at his situation, but is filled with humour. The resourcefulness shown earlier, such as asking others to transcribe his work, is seen in his unique approach to spelling problems. His rise to Professor of Poetry and Creative Writing at Brunel University is in stark contrast to the earlier anecdotes in which his teachers called him stupid. Nevertheless, it is notable that he does not choose to capitalize the title, perhaps showing that he doesn't feel above his students, or even that, like with the earlier comma splice in the opening paragraph, that the message is more important than the details of spelling and punctuation. For Zephaniah, shown through an asyndetic list, passion, creativity, and individuality are most important to success. Zephaniah's struggle is ongoing, as is seen through the adverbs now and always. Zephaniah's use of a rhetorical question in "How can I become white?" really underscores the confidence he feels as a dyslexic man. He cannot change this fact of his being any less than he can change his race, and he is proud of both facets of his identity. This stance also gently mocks anyone who thinks otherwise. The direct address he moves on to in "If You're Dyslexic" empowers those with dyslexia and encourages them to see this as a natural state. He makes the logical argument that the spelling and writing system is itself arbitrary and therefore unnatural. These closing paragraphs return to the direct address of those who are dyslexic or have children who have dyslexia. The informal opening "so" gives this close a gently advisory tone with an important message that intelligence and dyslexia are unrelated. The creativity muscle offers a light-hearted visual image of ingenuity. Zephaniah's openness about dyslexia has led to others sharing their own dyslexia, and Zephaniah empowers these individuals through imperatives. Use it to your advance, see the world differently. He returns to "we are the architects, we are the designers" in this closing paragraph, which is not only a parallel structurally, but has grown to have a deeper meaning through Zephaniah's discussion of how dyslexic individuals see the world differently. In this sense, they design the world. He finishes with a creative neologism, non-dyslexics, in a rhetorical question, avoiding labelling those without dyslexia as normal or other ableist remark, but inviting gentle humour with the deliberate addition of the mild swear word bloody.